Hey everybody, this is Ryan with a cold open read for this week's episode of WrestleWatch. No, this is not an ad read, although I think pretty soon my cat might start sponsoring us. Hey Claude, are you going to sponsor us? Okay, no answer from him yet, but I'm feeling pretty confident. Yeah. No, the reason for this is obviously this week's episode has been delayed a little bit. The reason why was unfortunately there was a fire next door to me a few days ago. Thankfully, no internal damage or structural damage to my home. Unfortunately, there was some external damage, and the power cut out, and my internet has been out at my home since then. So I have been put up in a hotel since then. I recorded this episode remotely, so if you're hearing it and it sounds a little bit different, that's why. I don't have access to my home computer where I do all the fun visuals, so if you're watching on YouTube, no fun visuals this week. I'm sorry. That's how it be. But we will have all of the fun that WrestleWatch is. I don't think that we talked about Dijak this week, so it won't be all of the fun that we have on a WrestleWatch, but it will be most of the fun. So let's kick it to the theme song!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WrestleWatch podcast. We are the only podcast that focuses on the world of free agency and the world of professional wrestling exclusively. That's the only thing we focus on. That's why we're special. You could follow us on all the socials. What is our Twitter handle again?
It is WrestleWatch _.
WrestleWatch _ at WrestleWatch _ and on there we would update our tier lists, our tier charts. You could see all of the content that we add on there, and it's a great way to just keep up to date with what's going on. But as I said, I am Doug.
And I'm Ryan. I was the other person helping out Doug with that part there.
So
I just want to also mention, so the podcast, of course, is available on whatever platform you're listening it on right now, obviously. We also have a YouTube channel if you guys wanted a visual format, if you've never watched the podcast. It's not our faces, though. It's just, like helpful little graphics.
And as we go through this podcast, this is going to be an episode where I think we focus a lot more on what is our core drive here, and that's looking at jumps between different promotions and how talent is moving within the current talent market.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you're going to see today is we're going to be heavily focusing on that because there's a lot of changes this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes this week. If I'm looking through accounting, if people like, numbers, we got numbers for you. We've added 3 different people to the tier list this week, and we've moved up and down 6 different other people and removed 3 other people. So that's a number of things that have changed. 12 things changed the tier list of people. Now, I'm phrasing it as people because there are 2 things that changed on the tier list that are not people per se. I guess it's corporations are people, to quote the great Senator Mitt Romney. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky about what we talk about here on WrestleWatch is we do talk about free agency in the world of professional wrestling, and sometimes that causes us to talk about the companies being free agents. So one of the things that we've been talking about for the last few weeks here on WrestleWatch has been the movements with WWE and TNA. So that's setting the scene a little bit for you all of what might be the next topic that we're going to start off the podcast with this week. It's about AEW, but it's not about them connecting with more promotions, even though they've been connecting with plenty of new promotions recently. And it looks like that things are going to heat back up with CMLL, with sending down. It looks like Kyle Fletcher will be down there defending the ROH TV title soon enough. But this is going to be about AEW's media rights and their possible upcoming free agency in that regard.
Yeah, and I think this week in particular was interesting to look at the notes, just the discussion around it, because Dynamite this week did their record low number of all time with a staggering low demo of 0.16 that a lot of people were, throwing opinions around based off of that. I have my thoughts on that. I don't think the world is the sky is falling. Um, because I think there's a lot of if you actually take a look at there was a lot of extenuating factors that led to that, and I'm going out on a limb and I'm going to predict that next week it's probably going to be back up to where it's been, previously.
Yeah, I mean, next week is not a federal holiday in the middle of the week.
Yeah,
So that's like the big factor, I think, right there.
that's big, and then also the I do think the Black Panther lead-in mattered because we saw
Oh
the
yeah.
difference in just the rating of that. Like it came in with like 82,000 viewers when they're usually coming up with a little under 300,000. So you
Yeah.
can't discount that. That's a
Yeah.
major thing.
Yeah, I think that it's less that there are a bunch of Bazinga heads that are just watching Big Bang Theory and leaving it on for the next 2 hours after it's done to watch Young Sheldon after Dynamite. And I think it's more like people that are creatures of habit and they see a movie playing before Dynamite and they think, oh, hey, this isn't Sheldon. I, I guess Dynamite's not on tonight, isn't it? And then they just go do something else. I think that's more so what probably happened. But yeah, as you said, I
Yeah.
think next week they'll be fine.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of
Yeah,
different things. But either way, we'll find out. Hey, listen, if we're
and
wrong, we'll mention it when we come on
yeah,
here because the
yeah,
reason that we're bringing this up is because AEW reportedly is about to end its exclusive negotiating window with Warner Brothers Discovery, and it would be technically a free agent
yeah,
able to talk with other promotions. And it's interesting just seeing the discourse around this because the largely the discourse seems to be based on the idea of will or won't WBD re-sign AEW.
hmm
And I think a lot of that's coming from people who maybe aren't as uh, knowledgeable or have been following it very exclusively.
yeah.
Uh, but and we'll talk about this when we'll talk about the tier chart. But right now it is at D tier that they're probably not leaving Warner Brothers Discovery.
Yeah, yeah. I would say that that's so I personally I wasn't sure if I wanted this to be on the tier list just because like it's kind of an abstract and not a individual wrestler kind
They're
of a thing.
they're tricky. They're almost I
Yeah.
treat them as just kind of like fun little side things.
Yeah.
So
And
I
I'm
don't think I don't get too in depth with it as I do with a talent. So it's not a big deal. But yeah, I
yeah,
get your point.
yeah, and I was the patron saint of putting AEW switching their Mexican allegiance to CMLL onto the
Yes.
tier list. So I maybe I'm being a little bit silly there because I was the guy that started this entire thing with that train of thought. But yeah, so right now it looks like the estimate for how much that AEW is receiving from WBD for their deal. It's not positive because they've added on so many things and all those kinds of factors. But the estimates that I've been seeing are somewhere in the range of 80 to 90 million dollars annually for all of AEW's content. Um, it's come out recently that when WBD was looking to get SmackDown a few years ago, that they had, I'm trying to find the bid number that they were
It was 175.
175. Yes. So if you adjust that for uh, the viewership numbers that AEW does, and you adjust it for inflation and all those kinds of things, um, essentially AEW could be looking at doubling their rights fee because that would convert to a floor of around 160 million, which is not, of course, the billion as people have been putting it out there. That would be 200 million annually. But
If
um,
that's assuming that they signed for 5 years.
yeah, this assumes for a 5-year term, of course, yes, as well. But yeah, so the thing that I would point out with that is that if the floor just of based off of pure inflation, based off of pure weekly viewership, all those kinds of things, it's around, let's just call it 150. Let's just round it off to 150, right? Um, the thing is that this year USA went and got their SmackDown, the new SmackDown deal at 280 million a year. And the other factor there is the previous Raw deal from USA was 240 million annually. So if there are companies that were looking to acquire Raw's ratings, such as Disney was for FX, or Amazon was looking at trying to get Raw over to them, that is a lot of wiggle room of, as we've been talking about with Tony Khan, a little bit of a war chest possibly for these other companies if AEW gets out of the exclusive window with WBD, which looks like it could happen very soon. Even though all the reports are saying, "Oh yeah, it's they're gonna totally get a deal, everything's great." It keeps on getting closer and closer to them being able to field offers from other companies.
Yeah, and I think this is a situation. I don't think a lot of people are necessarily framing it this way because a lot of people are, still in this mindset that AEW is this fledgling company that, desperately needs WBD to sign them again.
Yeah.
But I really feel that AEW is in the driving seat right now.
Yeah.
And if you look at, and I'll even include this last rating. I think that that is less a sign that AEW is in trouble and more of a sign of confirming that AEW should wait for the negotiating window to close and look at other options because especially if WBD is about to lose the NBA or at least a significant portion of what they have and
Hmm.
and just have a part of the D package or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, their ratings and viewership are going to decline even faster. And one thing that I think a lot of people are missing is looking at how fast the Big Bang Theory lead in, those ratings have collapsed over the last 18 months or so.
Yeah.
And and AEW has been holding up better than everything else on that network. So
Yeah.
TBS and TNT are just really struggling lately. And I think that, if say a Disney were to come in and offer a stronger deal for FX, I think that they should maybe consider it. And when you talk about the SmackDown deal where it's 280, it was 240 last time, that was for just 2 hours of programming.
Yeah.
AEW is offering five, assuming everything stays the same.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I think like Dave Meltzer said that, 125 would be a good number. Like he said that recently. And I think that they're going to blow past that. I really do.
I think that they'll blow past it too, especially because as you just pointed out that um yeah, the SmackDown is just it's just 2 hours and Raw is just 3 hours, and this would be 5 hours plus probably pay-per-view would probably be get included with this. I would bet and I or maybe it might be hoping that whoever gets the next deal figures out some kind of streaming component for AEW because that's part of the thing that's like holding them back a little bit possibly for people. But it also it would capture people that have cord cut, and now that's like the issue that seems to be happening for cable channels like TBS is a lot of people aren't going to TBS at 7 p.m. to get their Sheldon fill anymore. They're just going to Max where it's streaming anyway. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Well, and here's the thing, and Max has already been experimenting with putting channels just on there. Like if you wanted to watch CNN, you could just go on Max and just watch
yeah.
a live stream of CNN. If you wanted to, and I think if they started doing TBS and TNT just streaming on Max, that could be a big game changer for a lot of reasons.
Well, yeah, that's what the venue sports essentially is attempting to create is I guess it's essentially just cable, you know.
Yeah, and that's where all this was going anyway. But
Yeah.
then going back to the original point that we were bringing this up, and it's the likelihood that AEW does in fact leave Warner Brothers Discovery. I firmly believe that if it happens, it's going to be because AEW walked away from the table, not because WBD walked away from the table.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's essentially what happened with the NBA.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I
um,
think it'd be a very similar situation to that. And I think that it's also interesting because I think a lot of the similar players that were involved in the NBA situation are going to be
Yeah,
involved here because I think that now I don't think one of NBCU is going to be one of the bidders, but I do think we might look at uh, Disney being in
yeah.
play. I think that we may see a situation where Amazon may be in play, and obviously, I think WBD is still going to be in play as well. And there are others. I think it's possible that Apple may throw their hat in. And I've heard a lot of people say like, well, why wouldn't Fox get in there and throw some money around? They could probably get, Dynamite for a fraction of the price that they were paying for SmackDown. And I don't know that I see that. I kind of get the impression that Fox is maybe just done with wrestling.
That was the feeling I was getting too.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but that seems less likely to me. But based off of everything, if I were to make a guess, I would say it's likely that they're staying with Warner Brothers Discovery. Uh I think ultimately Warner Brothers Discovery is going to make a fair offer and AEW probably a game-changing offer for AEW ultimately in terms of being able to uh, be profitable and for long term as well. I think that that's gonna happen. So right now we have it at D tier to start.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair spot to have it.
Yeah, I think it's a fair spot to have it too. I I think that they're going to go into the non-exclusive period,
I think they
but
will too. Yeah,
I think that it does feel like from listening to uh all the people that are industry knowledge folks, it seems that the conversations with Warner Brothers are going well, regardless of this, that it might still go to the
E-
ability for AEW to get other
yeah,
offers.
everything we've heard so far seems to be that they have a they already have a deal for the television kind of inked out, like
Yeah,
in principle. It's just that the streaming component seems to be kind of the difficult one, the tricky one.
which is
And
weird to me because like if the if the environment is switching to a streaming environment, I don't understand why it's taking so long to figure out that part.
I have a theory, just based off of the conjecture I've heard. I think that it's possible that Tony Khan is, and I think a lot of wrestling fans do this. I think a lot of content creators do this. I think he's overvaluing his tape library.
Hmm.
Like you know the I don't think the dynamites from like
Casual.
2019 and 2020 and the old pay-per-views. I don't think there's a whole lot of value to them. I think he does. He thinks that. I just really don't think there's a whole lot of value to them, and maybe that's probably the issue at hand.
Well, I would say two points on that. One, in my experience with all of this, talking to people on the interwebs, um, I think that there are a lot of people that have never watched any of those Dynamites that are currently AEW fans. Um, the thing is, though, that that kind of person is the person that is a now diehard fan. So it's a much smaller percentage of a potential audience of people that are going to try to go back and stream all of those shows rather than your general audience that you're going to be capturing now by doing, live streams of live shows. I think that portion is going to be a far larger portion of the pot, than the people that are going to, die hard go back and watch every single original episode.
Yeah, I would
I
agree with
I
that.
think the pay-per-view library obviously will be, great to have for a streaming platform, and but I think that also with that is that you want to have the pay-per-views, period, like the new pay-per-views as they're happening.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially because I'm sure that Tony Khan is trying to pitch off Ring of Honor on this deal because that's what he always tries to do is try to find a way to get Ring of Honor involved in the deal.
I mean,
Um, which
yeah,
I think that again it's the factor of that. I think the tape library is more valuable to diehards like him than it is to the kind of person that will sign up for HBO Max to watch it's it's $15 a month for HBO Max. Let me sign up for it now so I can watch All In. That kind of person might not be going back to try to watch the entire history of Joe versus Punk or Nigel McGuinness's greatest hits. That kind of person is probably not the same person. Now, like of course, if you push it and you have fun with it, yeah, it'll work. But like, I think that the portion of the audience that's going to be trying to get that subscription for a streaming service is going to be a lot more people that are like what WWE's experience is, people that sign up for Peacock just to watch the pay-per-views.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. But and as I said, it's not ultimately it wouldn't make that big of a difference.
Oh yeah, no. And like this is another thing that was brought up by some executives this week that deal with marketing and rights negotiations. It was like on ESPN, or there was a person from ESPN talking about it, but they were mentioning just that, ratings aren't the biggest number factor when it looks at trying to get new rights deals for things. Um, so it's a lot more that like the ratings give an ability for marketing to quantify what they're going to pitch their current, ad buys as. It's not like a bad rating alone doesn't kill a program. It's more that if you can't get the ad revenue, that's what kills your program.
Right. And that's always been the big question mark for me, because one of the things we always hear is that AEW's viewerships, the viewers are different than WWE's viewers in the sense that they seem to be wealthier, more educated, not to disparage the WWE fans, but this was just, this has been reported by Wrestling Observer and other places that those numbers just kind of show that
Yeah.
they're closer to maybe like hockey or golf, where a little
Yeah.
bit more high, uh, you know, they're high spenders, or the target, they're the audience that these advertisers and would want to go after a little bit more. Because you take a look at golf, which doesn't really have strong viewership at all, but you look at their sponsors, they have Rolex sponsoring them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
yeah,
and I mean, when we've looked in the past of kind of comparing who are those like title sponsors for WWE versus AEW. WWE has a lot of stuff that are like an energy drink, a Credit One credit card company, which is not Capital One, but it looks the exact same. Um, Slim Jims, candy, things like that. And then AW is like State Farm.
yeah.
It's
Listen, AEW does have a lot of, like, they'll have like the pizza places and the things like that, but they have a lot more car companies
oh yeah, yeah.
and
And I
a
was
lot
just
more.
talking about like in-ring advertising kind of stuff. They've had
Hmm.
State Farm, and I'm trying to remember what the other
They've had
company was that I
jewelers. They've had, I mean, and granted, that could be a difference between WBD and USA and Fox as well. I don't know. I don't
Mhm.
know that, but I do know that
Oh,
when I,
TurboTax. They had TurboTax as a sponsor in like during the episode, the announcers were like, here is the TurboTax moment of the night.
yeah,
TurboTax. Like that is a very specific kind of advertisement and a kind of audience to hit with that. Rather than like having like here's the Slim Jims match moment of the night, or here's a Mountain Dew pitch black match.
yeah.
We get a video game sponsoring matches in AEW, and then they get candy at WWE. And I
I,
said we, I'm sorry. But I'm like going for like the mindset of like I'm in AEW right now, and I'm looking at like who are the people that are sponsoring us, who are the things that Warner Brothers can then sell off the advertisement slots for. And the answer is that a lot of, yeah, as you were saying, a lot of what they're looking at is um richer people. To be honest, that's the advertising base.
yeah, and that's why I think this is such a wild card and what could actually happen.
Yeah. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. I think that it will probably be that they'll stay with Warner Brothers, but I think that if they go to out of the exclusive window, I think that Disney is going to put up a nice, healthy bid for it.
Yeah. And I'll say, because here's the thing. We talked about, I thought Disney was a good sure bet, or not a good sure bet, but a strong contender to grab SmackDown or Raw, just because,
I think that you were like, your bet was that Raw was going to go to FX.
yeah, I think that I feel that FX is a strong channel for something like that, and I think it would pair well, especially in this environment where sports, are king.
Yeah.
I think FX is a channel that could really benefit from that because unlike, and I'll say this, unlike TBS, which really doesn't have anything like outside of like NBA and NHL and MLB every now and then, like there are no like, you know, prestige television shows on those channels. Um, all of Warner Brothers Discovery's prestige TV is largely on HBO.
Yeah.
But if you take a look at,
Disney's Prestige, it's on FX.
it's usually on FX, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a stronger channel for someone who is a wrestling fan, because I
Yeah.
do think that wrestling fans, okay, people watch wrestling different. I understand that. I think that, like, for example, for me, I choose to watch wrestling like I watch a sport. I don't watch it like a TV show, but I
You don't watch it.
acknowledge
Yeah.
that a lot of people do. And I think that there's something like that would pair off much better with an FX as opposed to like a
Well,
TBS.
well, yeah, like there are three ways to watch wrestling. One is just a sport or kind of a thing that's live now, could be background. One is as a TV show, kind of soap opera kind of structure. And then one is theater, like performance art kind of a look at it. And I'm a little bit more on the last part of it, because like I like thinking about the construction of matches. I like I like having like a little bit of a review log of what matches I've seen so I can think about things and compare notes and who I think is doing the best performances and things like that. But I do have fun still watching it. But the point is, I suppose I'm making is that I think the kind of person that's into prestige television is more likely to probably be into that kind of thought process with wrestling, rather than the turn my brain off, just have fun live in the moment kind of process of wrestling. Another thing that I would point out about the FX talk is that it does look like that Disney has been trying to possibly expand sports coverage onto FX. In the past, they put XFL, now UFL games onto FX. So it's possible that if they were to get Dynamite, that it might be a way for them to expand their palette there. And then one other thing that I wanted to mention was that the regional sports network group, Diamond Sports, is in bankruptcy court right now. And this is probably why the NBA rights have not been announced yet. It's because I think it's like 38 teams between baseball, NBA, and NHL. Yeah, it's 38 different teams have their media rights to a regional sports network owned by the Diamond Sports Group, which is Bally Sports at this point. You might know them as Bally Sports.
Yes.
So if they go out of bankruptcy court saying you have to give up all of your rights to all of these teams, suddenly now NBA and baseball and NHL have a new package of games to shell out to some company. So that's why I know that some of the reports have been saying that Warner Brothers is still in the hunt for the NBA rights, that they might be trying to make essentially a D package for Warner Brothers to get them keep on having the NBA. I think that this might be where they're trying to construct that D package, and in that way, I don't think that we're going to hear the NBA rights analyzed and announced until this whole thing ends with the regional sports networks.
I think that sounds that yeah, I think that's definitely could be part of it. And I def I
Mhm.
and here's the thing, the RSNs have obviously been an ongoing mess
Yeah.
for a long time because that was one of the things that really kind of damaged Sinclair
Yes.
because
Yeah,
they went
they're
all
the
in
people
on
that
this.
yeah, they're the people that are they're the big financer of Diamond Sports Group.
Mhm.
So
All right. Well, I think we covered that aspect pretty well.
yeah.
So at this point, maybe we should take a break, fill up our
Yeah.
coffees, and then come back and do the tier list.
Yeah, that sounds great. All right, we will be right back with WrestleWatch. Hey everybody, welcome back to WrestleWatch. This is the podcast where we discuss free agency in the world of professional wrestling. I'm Ryan. I'm doing Gatorade this morning. Doug, I think you just filled up your coffee.
Yep, I did. I'm doing coffee every morning.
Uh,
I I I, I am absolutely someone who probably goes through 3, 4 carafes a day. No, not maybe.
mm.
I probably do a full pot every day.
Oh well, okay. Well, that's impressive
Yeah,
and worrying.
yeah, it
Uh,
is.
Um, something that is not worrying though is the state of the tier list, or maybe it is worrying. There's a lot of new names, a lot of new places that people are in. But there are also three names that we've removed from the tier list. I'm sure that some of you will be saying finally for some of these names. So let's start off with the first one that got a big debut this week. That was Erick Rowan. He was up in S tier. He has now been removed from the tier list.
Yeah, actually, two of them got big review.
Oh, I'm going chronologically.
Yeah, but I will say this before we go over these, the three that we removed. I just want to point out that two of them were at S tier and jumped, and one of them was F tier and did not jump. So once again, pat ourselves on the back for getting all three of these correct.
Mhm.
So the first one is that Erick Rowan is now part of the Wyatt Six.
Spelled with a six, of course.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, allegedly, right? I mean, they didn't
Uh,
necessarily call him that, did they?
well, the graphics that they use it's SICK
No, I mean,
six.
they didn't actually. He's
Oh,
not.
on
They didn't call him
screen.
Erick Rowan, or he's wearing a
They
mask, and people are
they
just
haven't
assuming it's him, right?
Well, they haven't said his name on screen. However, it is all of the people that have been rumored to be a part of this Wyatt tribute act um, appeared on was it Raw this past week? Yeah.
Yes.
Um, and they all had their masks on and everything like that. They had the Uncle Howdy character, which is Bo Dallas. Erick Rowan was the rabbit. I can't remember the bunny's name, but he was the. It's all anthropomorphized versions of the Firefly Funhouse characters come to life, and they're on mask. We don't know where it's going yet because that was the first time and only time that they've appeared on screen so far. Um, who else was in there? Dexter Loomis is one of them. Nikki Cross is another one. Yeah, so it's theory. I suppose, yeah, in theory it's Erick Rowan, but there have been pictures of him shown everywhere. Reports have said that he's one of the six, and the tattoos line up with him and the rabbit. So either we've been hoodwinked, and there's an actual like 7 foot tall rabbit that is now going to be competing in WWE, or Erick Rowan has re-debuted in WWE. It's one of the two.
Yeah. So and here's the thing: we'll assume that that's the case, that's actually him, obviously. But we'll see how this goes. But I think that we all expected this at some point. We thought this was happening one day, and it finally did.
Yeah.
So we have Erick Rowan back in WWE. So this I think that this was just something that was going to happen. We anticipated it. There has been rumors for a long time that he was going to be going back in some form. So yeah, we
Hmm.
finally saw it. I don't since he's been on there for so long. I mean, I feel like we've already talked about him enough. I mean, what we expect happened.
Yeah. That's essentially it. Yeah, it's what we expected to happen. Um, I I'm going to see where it goes with the story. It doesn't look like it's too supernatural, so it will work out and everybody will have a positive time with doing this act.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that was always an issue with a lot of the Wyatt stuff was that they just struggled to have like an end destination and land and, stick the landing.
Yeah.
So, let's see if they corrected that issue.
Well, speaking of that kind of thing with a never-ending story, the next person that has been removed from the tier list from S tier is Jacob Fatu. He appeared on SmackDown this week as the newest addition to the Bloodline, the never-ending Bloodline storyline, which I'm not sure, is he going to be in the Wolfpack or the Hollywood faction?
Yeah, I know, right? Or that short-lived time where they kind of had the half red and half white one.
Oh yeah,
Remember that?
that was the Union after they reunited after the Finger Poke of Doom, which should have
Yes.
been the end of the entire NWO, and yet no, it was not, and we got a NWO B team. I think that might be Guerrillas of Destiny or the B team, but we'll see where it goes.
Yes. Either way, Jacob Fatu is an excellent talent. I mean,
Yeah,
anyone who's watched him wrestle, it's like the stuff that he does is for his size, it just blows people away. And I think you could make I think I might make the argument that he is suddenly the he's
he's the
probably
best.
the best wrestler in the entire bloodline.
I would say he is. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Like in terms of in ring, I mean, he's just an incredible talent, and I think that he uh probably what that faction needs, to be honest, because they have a lot of people who just aren't really good workers, especially the people they've been adding lately. So great, great pickup. I think
yeah.
this is going to be a solid move. Just as long as they let him just go out there and do what he does best, it's going to be great.
Yeah, and it was interesting because the WWE filed two trademarks the past like few weeks. They filed one for was it Tala Tonga, which we believe is going to be Hikaleo, and then they just filed one for Caesar Sokoa, which some people thought was going to be Jacob Fatu's new name, but they called him Jacob Fatu, so that's pretty fun.
Maybe it's going to be Zilla.
It could be Zilla, yeah, because maybe they're trying to get around any kind of copyright to having somebody named Zilla.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. We'll
We'll find
find out
out.
on that one. But
Yeah, but yeah, so that's the latest of the Bloodline storyline is Jacob Fatu entering the Bloodline, going off our tier list again, S tier. So we were right. And the last one that we were right on was Chad Gable. Right before Clash at the Castle, he announced himself that he had re-signed with WWE when Mr. Paul Levesque was asked about it at the press conference after the Clash of the Castle premium live event. Uh, he didn't deflect and act like it was some storyline thing. He was just saying like he's happy that Chad Gable will be staying with the company. So, by all intents and purposes, it does not seem like it's a work. It does seem that Chad Gable is staying at WWE.
yeah, and we already kind of talked about him last week when we talked about Ricochet and
Yeah.
how we were comparing the two of them and their strengths and their value to different promotions. And we predicted that he was going to stay in WWE just because that is where he has the most value, and he does. And well, now he did get murdered, as people are jokingly saying, on TV. But
Yeah, that's what caused some people to be questioning if he was like actually re-signed with WWE or if it was like him working to try to build like a little bit more intrigue about his match at Clash of the
yeah.
Castle.
It was just funny because it looked like he had like a gunshot wound in his head.
Hey,
But
we've all been there, you
yeah,
know.
but based off of this, I think that he made the right call. I think he signed where he is probably going to be the most valued, so he probably got a decent money deal,
Mhm.
and I think that going forward he's going to be in a strong position. So,
Yeah.
good
And
for him.
he's continued the rich tradition of people that have recently re-signed with WWE just to get geeked out their next immediate story. So
But you know what though? Is he still he's higher now and presented better than he has for most of his career.
I
So
agree. Yeah.
in some ways, you have to at least say this is still like an improvement.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Um,
get the bag, my boy. That's all you got
I
to say.
agree. So yeah, let's go through from the top of the tier list then for everything else. Just so we can have it nice and orderly for the remaining people that are still remaining on the tier list. Uh, First up in S tier, we'll just start off with reading off who are still there. It's Camille and Motor City Machine Guns. Nothing has changed otherwise, except of course of removing Erick Rowan and Jacob Fatu.
Motor City Machine Guns do have a booking, I believe, on the 28th. So that'd be this Friday. So like an indie booking. I imagine I don't think they're coming in anytime soon at this point, unless they are doing that and hopping over to Forbidden Door. But I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not as bullish as I think some people are about them being an imminent debut. I always thought that it was a little bit premature to put them in S tier, so we'll see if we get any more info on them
Maybe they'll be the new
anytime
members of the
soon.
Bloodline.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Shelly Fatu.
Shelly Fatu.
Um, and then, oh yeah, speaking of which, down in A tier are likely jumps. We have Hikuleo and Ricochet, which is no change from last week. Although I suppose with Hikuleo, hey, news where he's probably going to end up. It looks like that they just added somebody else. So I don't think that's going to affect him getting a slot in the bloodline.
No, I think both of them could end up in uh I think they could both end up in their respective likely destinations very soon, or they might take a little while because Ricochet, as we said, we talked about his different paths that he could take last week. And with
Yeah,
Hikuleo, we don't know when they might sit on him for a little while just because they just debuted Jacob Fatu. So maybe they're going to wait and kind of spread his out so that way he,
yeah,
has a little more impact when he debuts.
yeah. So down in B tier or up in B tier, depending on how you look at it, these are the people that we think are probably going to be jumping soon enough. We do have two additions into B tier at this point, so let's go through this. Starting off, we have Grizzled Young Veterans, who we spoke about last week at length about their possible contract negotiations with AEW. Next up is Ricky Starks, Matt Hardy, and Jeff Hardy. No new news with those two from last week. The next person that we're going to talk about is Alex Windsor. She was down in D tier. We have moved her up to B tier. I think it's due to the fact that she continues to be getting some pretty good bookings with AEW of late.
Yes.
And yeah, so we talked about this kind of last week, a little bit preemptively of this vote. But did you have more thoughts on that, Doug? Do you remember where you voted on Alex Windsor
I
by any
feel like,
chance?
did I vote B? I feel like I voted B.
You voted C.
Voted C? Okay. I could go either way. I think that I'm at the point now where I think that she's going to continue to be used by AEW, but I still go back and forth with whether or not she actually wants to be signed someplace long term, because obviously she's got a lot of extenuating circumstances with family and things like that right now.
Yeah.
Um, but also once again, AEW's deals are, they're known to be quite flexible.
Hmm.
So that could be an issue. So I definitely think I put her at C tier, but I wouldn't be opposed to B.
Yeah. Um, yeah, my view is that it seems like it's heading in the direction of her uh being full-time signed to AEW, but we will see where it goes. That's why I'm not.
What did you vote?
I voted that's a great question. I voted. And how did I vote?
Because we need to know. Listen, these
I
are the
voted
important
B.
questions. Okay,
I
you went
voted for
B.
B tier. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Because
I think B or C is fair.
I think my reasoning was that I think it's more likely than not at this point that she signs full time with AEW,
Hmm.
but I'm nowhere near sure enough about it to put it any higher than B at all. Um,
That's fair.
so next up is the other movement up on the tier list from this week into B tier is Lio Rush. He was in C tier, now he's in B tier. What's the latest on Lio? Have you
I
heard,
I
Doug?
think I think I said he's at C tier, right?
Let's see where you put him. You kept him in C tier.
Yeah.
I wanted to move him up to B tier.
I think he's one where I kept him at C tier because I still don't know if AEW wants to throw a contract on him again. Just because obviously this is a guy who's had a long history of uh, having issues with his promotions. And I don't know if maybe they just want to keep him at arm's length at this point and just keep booking him on date by date. Maybe they'll eventually sign
Well,
him again.
yeah, because the report that came out from Fightful this week was that he has been absent from AEW for a while, but he had worked in other promotions for a bit. Made his in-ring return, as we had been mentioning in May. He had made a good enough impression that he quickly got that booking for the Roderick Strong follow-up match. Um, we've been told, they say, that they've been talking to him about possible storylines in AEW, but they haven't done a like contract with him.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how. Okay, I get the impression that Tony Khan is not someone who necessarily holds a grudge. And frankly, I don't think he did anything that's worth holding a grudge. He did go on social media and said, basically dressed down his boss, which, whether you think he should have, whether or not you think Tony Khan crossed the line or not, is irrelevant. I think he crossed the line personally, but regardless, it all comes down to whether or not Tony Khan holds a grudge against him for that. I personally don't think he does. I don't think
Hmm.
that that's the kind of. I don't think Tony Khan has that kind of issue with his talent. I think that he. I mean,
Yeah.
we saw that with Jonathan Gresham. Reportedly, when they had that big blow up at that ROH show, it ended with Tony Khan saying, "Hey, no bridges were burnt here." Even after they were yelling at each other.
Yeah.
So it sounds like this is not. My hunch is that a bridge is not burned, but I don't know that they necessarily want to throw a contract at him right now. So maybe they just want to keep doing the per date deals. We'll see.
Yeah. We will see. And speaking of C tier, we have these are the people that we think are 50-50 shots of going to a new promotion or staying where what they're currently doing. In C tier is Sheamus, Trevor Lee, who is formerly known as Cameron Grimes in the WWE, Speedball Mike Bailey, Mustafa Ali, the Von Erichs, and then we have three new additions to C tier. The first of them is Danhausen. Doug, where do you think that you voted on Danhausen?
I probably had him at A.
You did. You voted A. I voted C.
I mean, look, so right now he is in AEW under contract. The question for me is, do I think that he is going to leave AEW and go to either, the promotions that we kind of focus on, either WWE or TNA? So the first part, do I think he's leaving AEW? Yes. I would imagine
Oh,
you would
yeah.
agree with that. Yes.
100% he's leaving
Okay.
AEW.
So then I'm guessing that your question is either TNA or WWE going to take him?
Yeah, my reason for being 50-50 was I think that there's just as high of odds that he just goes around all the indies and collects all of the monies and teeths that he wants, rather than getting a long-term deal with TNA or WWE.
Okay. So my thing is, I think that he is someone that they would love to bring into NXT for
Mm.
just I think he'd fit with their uh well, I shouldn't say he would necessarily fit with the promotion, but at the same time, I think that he is someone that they would bring in. I think Danhausen would come in, and that's aside from the whole how he's good friends with CM Punk thing and gonna vouch for his buddy. I don't think I try not to factor that stuff in, but
Hmm.
just try to be logical about this. And I think that they would at least bring him in for a short time. Um, and I don't, yeah, I think they would. And I don't, and more he would go to TNA. I think both would be interested in him, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I think that TNA would easily be interested in him. With WWE, as I've said before, I think that he's a license to print money for merch sales. So if they're looking to do that, then great. But yeah, I'm not sure if he fits into NXT personally. I'm not sure where he would fit in at the current moment in WWE, but I think that he would have a place there somewhere. I think that his style is kind of sports entertaining anyway, so I think it'll work. It would work in WWE wherever they put him.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So we'll see. I mean, it's only a matter of time because I can't imagine he's under contract much longer because he came in. When did he come in? I don't remember exactly when he came in, but either way, he hasn't been on TV. It sounds like they're all both sides are just kind of just waiting everything out. So I imagine it's going to be shortly.
Yeah, I imagine that's going to be a short time from now. Also, he came in 2022 at the beginning of the year. Um, so yeah, that's Mr. Danhausen. Next up on the tier list is talking about the WWE TNA relationship, which has moved up from a D tier of probably not being a thing to C tier, which is 50-50. It could be solidified into being an official thing, official partnership. Um, this week they had on NXT a little battle royale where I believe that it was just Frankie Kazarian and Joe Hendry appeared in the battle royale. Is that accurate, or was there someone else? I think it was just those two.
I think it was just those two.
Um, so somebody said his name and he appeared, Joe Hendry. Um, it's interesting to me because it still is mostly a one-way street, right? Um,
They did had was it Tatum Paxley went to the Impact
yeah,
show.
but it's like it's still all TNA going to NXT, except for one person that's not even like I don't know if she's top tier in NXT. Uh,
She's not, but well
so
here's the
yeah.
thing. Um I think that we are going to maybe see a situation where I think we could see a situation where it becomes more like an evolve thing, where maybe TNA gets some of the talent that, like those NIL talent that need to get some work done. I could see it being something similar to that. That's possible. But yeah,
Yeah.
but at the same time, we just saw like, AJ Styles got announced for that Noah show.
Yeah, and that was due to a Bima wanting him.
Yeah.
So
But
they essentially told the cyber agent people told Noah that they wanted to have somebody big like that. They had Shinsuke Nakamura last year. They wanted to do it as like a co-promotional thing of, oh yeah, WWE is on a Bima service, so we want somebody from WWE to show up. So they went and asked for AJ Styles because he is essentially the biggest name person that did Japanese wrestling in WWE other than Shinsuke.
mhm.
So it all adds up if in a there's one read of it that it adds up in the direction of this is, just that they wanted somebody and they got one person and that's fine. It could add up in another direction, of course, that it's trying to solidify an official relationship between the cyber agent promotions and WWE. But there is the more simple answer of it's just AJ as well.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I guess you know what I will say this. I do think am I expecting like a bunch of names heading over to TNA? I'm not. Do I think it's likely? No. Would it shock me? At this point, no. I mean, I think that the we're seeing things that I would say is definitely a change in like a departure of how they used to do things in WWE in terms of partner promotions. I don't know if it's in direct response to AEW having all these different partner promotions and partner up with all these people and WWE feeling like maybe they just want to, you know, get partnerships with certain people because it's reported that they want to find someone in Mexico now. So I think that
Hmm.
we are seeing
Well,
some battle lines being drawn.
I would point out that the source on that is that was it Hugo, the announcer for AAA.
Yeah, who's Conan affiliated and who's, we'll just say
So
whatever.
so it could be that AAA wants to have WWE as their partner.
Yes, this is also
Um,
true.
uh, yeah, it's so here are two possible explanations that I can think of. One is that WWE wants to do that whole NXT global thing, and this is their way of doing it is by getting partner promotions and having like as you were saying, yeah, they could throw the NIL talent over to TNA and then have Bully Ray shoot on them, I guess. Um, that's one path here. The other path is that WWE are trying to uh, put a blanket on one of the more interesting things that AEW has established, which is their relationships with other promotions around the world. By saying, well, I mean, we have those relationships. Look at what we do. Look, we've sent Tatum Paxley to to TNA. You see, it's the same. And
Well, and not
of
only
course, it's
that,
not. But you know,
yeah. Well, not only that, and I think we're starting to see an attempt by WWE. This is my opinion, an attempt by WWE to try to build up TNA because they want to. There's this effort to try to right now because people have always equated, this battle between AEW and WWE as kind of like the new wrestling war. And I think that there is an effort in WWE's part to try to like build up TNA so that TNA is like the number two, which I think that's a lost cause. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that that is partly it due to it as an attempt to almost mitigate AEW's success by having a a third brand grow.
hmm.
That's I guess it's a little tinfoil hatty for me, but that's that's kind of what I'm thinking might be at play here as well.
Well, I think the reason why I'm thinking more on the path of them trying to throw a wet blanket on Forbidden Door essentially is because of how Triple H has derisively talked about the Forbidden Door and joked about it before. Um, and also that he was the one that was the architect of the whole NXT Global thing. So that's why I think that it could be possibly a spite relationship at the same time of like, oh yeah, we're gonna ruin AEW by making it so that people don't think it's special what they do anymore
Yeah.
by taking Frankie Kazarian to do a battle royal and get Joe Hendry get eliminated from battle royal and then sending somebody that's not even in our world title picture over to TNA.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it'll be more than just that, of course, because like the fact that Joe Hendry and Frankie Kazarian went to TNA does mean, of course, that it's more than just Jordan Grace. So that thought process has been killed. But again, I would say that until we see a bigger name from WWE, I'm talking top of the card NXT or somebody from the main roster goes to TNA, it feels very one-sided of a relationship so far.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's fair.
Yeah. So next up on the tier list, and we might take a break right after this person. It's Megan Bayne. She debuts in C tier. She had been under contract with AEW, and it seems like there are conflicting reports on whether or not she's currently a free agent per se, or if she's still kind of under AEW contract. She had been working for months, most of last year, in fact, at Stardom as a sort of excursion. Uh, yeah, I don't know where she's going to be going next. It seemed like that AEW was trying to pitch some creative ideas to her. And then there's also, of course, the specter of Rossi's Marigold promotion.
Yeah. It's it's very weird with her because I was always under the impression that she was under AEW contract and just working with Stardom.
Yeah.
That was what the general consensus was. But as more time goes on, it does seem like there's just some weird things going on with her and how we just and everyone's very quiet on it. So I don't know if that means anything. I mean, it may mean nothing, but I don't have a good grasp on it. But
Hmm.
it does feel weird that all the that we're now looking at situations where maybe she's like going to be a free agent, maybe she's going to just go to WWE, and maybe she's going to go to Marigold, or I don't know. So normally I have some type of opinion on people like this, but my only opinion is that something weird feels like it's going on, and I don't know and we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, I don't think that we're getting the full story because of all the conflictions about if she's even still under contract with AEW. There's one report that was trying to make it sound like that when she was in Stardom, she wasn't even under AEW contract, which doesn't is not ever been reported before now.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily believe that one. So that's why I voted C tier because I think that personally, I think it's 50-50 of whether she will end up in AEW or Stardom or end up in Marigold. And because Marigold is not considered a destination at the moment for our purposes here at WrestleWatch, it might change at the end of the summer. We're trying to keep it like quarterly so that we don't have big changes to the tier list and in that kind of regard too quickly. So that's why I put her at 50-50 because I think it's a 50-50 whether she goes back to AEW Stardom or she goes and follows the Hat Man to Marigold.
Yep. And with that, should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a quick break and then we'll be back to talk about the DNF tier. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the WrestleWatch podcast. We've been talking through the tier list, and we have just D and F tier to go. I did want to mention before we get into D and F tier that there were two people that were removed from the tier list, but not because they had signed or re signed anywhere, just because the buzz has died for them. One of them was previously in D tier, and that's why I wanted to chat about them now, was Malakai Black. The other one was Nikki Bella. She was formerly an F tier, and we just removed her from the tier list. Malakai, his contract status looks like it is he's not in an option year, and it looks like it's beyond the year when he would leave AEW. So that's why we're just saying it's a low likelihood that he's going to be leaving AEW anytime soon. And Nikki Bella, just there has been no real other news since that one like podcast interview. So yeah, those are two people that we removed from the tier list rather unceremoniously,
Yeah. To be fair,
unfortunately. But
Malakai Black, we do think we still think he is going eventually. We just don't think it's imminent.
yeah, I think that that's the case with him. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Um, so the rest of D tier, these are the people that are probably not going to be jumping to a new promotion in the next year. First up is Dustin Rhodes, then Jinder Mahal, Tekla, Kevin Owens, Natalia, Shelton Benjamin, Becky Lynch, Katsuhiko Nakajima, MXM, formerly known as Maximum Male Models. And then we have three people that have moved up to D tier. First up is Dijak, has moved up from F to D tier.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I feel like Dijak is, he's perpetually just been kind of floating in WWE, and maybe he's just ready to kind of try something different, shake things up. So I don't know what that would entail, but I could see him going to TNA, and I think AEW might kick the tires on him. So I think, and he's been, a little bit more vocal and critical on social media, and so granted, trying to read into his social media is, that's a lost cause in itself. But I think that I think D tier is probably okay. I don't even remember where I put him. I don't know that I even went that high, but
You went to C tier.
okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, okay, so I did go. I went higher. Okay.
Oh yeah, you went even higher. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I would go D or C. I would. No, I'm sitting here thinking about it because the bottom line is right now I don't know, is he someone that I see WWE throwing a big money offer at right now? Like more than he's getting paid. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean,
Hmm.
they haven't really used him well to begin with in their regard. And they have so many other people right now. And I could see him, branching out and trying to figure out something else. So yeah, I think I would agree C. But D tier I think is totally fine too, because I think it's also a situation where he might resign and just accept whatever offer he has. It could also be a thing where he maybe goes to the Indies for a while and just kind of like tries to reinvent himself and get all this, this stink off him from whatever this past reign has been.
Yeah, I just voted F because I'm not. I haven't had any more news to think that he should be any higher. Um, so that's yeah. My explanation is very short and brief on him.
That's fair. Next,
Um, yeah. Next up is Viva Van. I didn't want to include her on the tier list personally. Um, you voted for. Where did you vote? Where do you think that you voted?
so I'll be honest. I kind of think she's already signed,
Well, you voted D. So
right? But I mean, in my head, I'm feeling like she's gonna be in Ring of Honor. She's already in Ring of Honor.
I mean,
And
I guess is she?
she kind of, yeah, she is. She's in there a lot. So I think that I would compare her to kind of Queen Aminata in the sense that, someone who's probably about to get like some big deal. Um, but at the same time, it's like I agree with you in the sense of putting them on there is weird just because it's very hard to gauge that stuff. Like she might be under a deal right now and she may never be under a deal. So I think I ended up just going D because I just didn't have a really good
Well,
feel for it.
yeah, she hasn't appeared in Ring of Honor for a month now. Her she in this year she's had three Ring of Honor matches. February, where she lost to Abaddon in the first round of the women's television title tournament, a proving ground match that lasted 3 minutes and 51 seconds against Athena in May, and then on May 30th she lost to Red Velvet in 5 minutes.
Has she had rampage matches?
She wrestled one Rampage match recently, and that was a title eliminator match against Tony Storm that lasted 9 minutes, but it was on Rampage, which of course means that it was cut down from something else. I'm just not. Oh yeah, she also got squashed by Chris Statlander in a dark match in Everett, Washington this past month. So she's only been appearing for AEW or ROH in the last month and only on their West Coast states. She has not been flown out to go to other places.
Okay.
So I don't see it.
Okay. I will keep I am going to stick with my D with D tier then.
Yeah.
I mean I don't remember what I said.
I
I
yeah, you voted D tier.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with D tier then because I do think that she is someone that I could see wanting to do something. I mean, I think they like her. I think that she's okay personally.
That's yeah, that was the other thing for me was that I'm just not sure if like when you some people were trying to compare her to well we put Michael Oku on the tier list and he doesn't have a lot of buzz about blah 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 and I'm like
That's yeah,
dude that's not the
that's
same
no. No,
and
like Viva
people were
Van.
people were also comparing it to Alex Windsor which again like I don't think it's the same at all.
And there's a lot of extenuating circumstances with her. Where yeah, Viva Van I would almost compare to say like
Just that like well like Alex Windsor it's also like her career wise she has been a champion in Tokyo Joshi Pro and in Rev Pro which are I would say the next tier down of promotion from what we like are looking at on WrestleWatch
yeah.
essentially kind of promotions. Viva Van has not done that
No,
and
Viva
maybe people like her a lot more than I do but like just based off of like a prestige look I'm not seeing her as like the same kind of level.
She's
But
like Allie Ketch in their regard. She's like an indie darling who has a lot of fans. But the reason why I'm comfortable having her at D though is because okay, you said like, oh, she got booked a couple times and here and there, but she's getting booked. Like, okay, this is a similar path to like Queen Aminata or Red Velvet did. Like Red Velvet might be a little different because that was more heavily pandemic era before
that was
when she got
pandemic,
signed.
yeah.
But like Queen Aminata, it's similar with her. So I think she's on a trajectory to get like a lower level deal. So we'll see.
Yeah. Um,
And then we already
so
did the Warner Brothers Discovery AEW
yeah,
thing. That's a D tier.
yeah. So down in F tier right now, which we think are not likely jumps to the promotions that we're currently recognizing. Uh, we have Sari Utame Hayashishita, Hook, El Phantasmo, Gigi Dolan, Buddy Matthews, Keito Kiyomiya, Matt Cardona, Michael Oku, Jake Hager, and our newest addition to the tier list in the last slot he just slipped in is Jake Lee of Noah. Do you Noah Jake Lee?
I know a Jake Lee.
Oh, nice.
I'll be honest though, I'm out of the loop on this. I don't know what happened that people are suddenly putting want him on the tier list.
I believe that it's kind of a similar vibe check about Kaito Kiyomiya that people were thinking about him going on the tier list.
Okay. So, okay, because like I was trying to find something, like find out what it was, and I couldn't figure it out, like why people thought he needed to be on there. So here's the thing: I almost nominated Kaito Kiyomiya because I wanted to take him off.
Mhm.
Like I'm kind of ready to be. There's no smoke here anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not. I don't see any reason why we need to discuss the possibility of Kaito Kiyomiya jumping somewhere because I don't think he's going to jump anywhere. I haven't seen any hint that he is. And now Jake Lee, I just don't know why
Yeah.
we decided to put him on the. I mean,
So
we'll see. We'll see what happens. I guess clearly there's something there
I
because we had three people nominate him and then got enough to put him on F tier.
so the reasons why are three different reasons. One, he joined Bullet Club. Two, he's disbanding his faction in Noah Good Looking Guys. And three, he was announced for the G1. So those are the tea leaves that people are looking at.
Okay. So here's the thing. I think that Jake Lee joining Bullet Club to me I mean, and once again, this is just me. I think that was just part of the build to the G1.
Mhm.
And I think that the idea that he's going to be in the G1 is kind of irrelevant
Uh,
because I think this is something that they do every year where they have like, one or two outsiders come in. And so that to me, that doesn't mean anything. But I guess we'll see. I don't know. I don't know that this doesn't feel like a jump to me.
okay, gotcha.
I don't know. That's just to I just don't think I don't and I'll say this. I like Jake Lee. I think
Mhm.
he's a good talent. But once again, this is like they have Takeshita and Jake Lee in the G1 as kind of like the outsiders, right?
Mhm.
So those are the two. Like that one year, like and they've done this with Noah before too, where they've had that one year they had Marufuji and Nakajima in it.
Yeah.
And I mean, Nakajima, they had, I mean, no, Marufuji, they had beat Okada in it, and then that set up a IWGP title match at a New Japan show. That could do something like they could do that, and they might do that. I don't know. I get, I just don't think this is a jump or leading to a jump. If anything, I
Mhm.
think this is a continuation of the all together working together relationship of all these promotions right now, which is probably making it even harder to figure this stuff out in Japan, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my
Well,
thoughts.
I think that I think that it's a decent amount of smoke for some people, so I understand why they were feeling like wanting to have him on the tier list.
Yeah, and I might be wrong. I'll come on here and then just like ignore that and pretend that I never said it.
I mean, like there are people in F tier that have possibly less smoke than that. So, yeah, I think that we'll see in the next few weeks, especially once G1 season actually kicks off, what is going on with him. If it is, as you say, just purely all G1 and all United Japan kind of stuff, or if it's, oh yeah, he broke up good-looking guys because he's trying to not be at Noah. We'll find out, I think, by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
So yeah, were there anybody else or any other things that you wanted to cover this week on WrestleWatch, Doug?
I think we're good.
Okay, cool. Well, I don't have anything else to say either, so I suppose then this is the end of this episode of WrestleWatch. So yeah, please make sure to follow us on whatever platform you're listening to us currently on. Check out our Twitter and our YouTube channels. And yeah, we'll be back next week with more talking about free agency in the world of pro wrestling.
All right, so with that, I'm Doug.
I'm Brian. All right, have a good week, everyone.
Bye, everyone.